Born to fail, bred to survive. From these streets to the heights I'll thrive.
Life wasn't easy, but I made it mine.
Hi, my name is Arlin Bleclic. Welcome to my book, Born to Fail, Bred to Survive. This is my life story, and I will be releasing one chapter at a time. These chapters are drafts, leading up to the final release of my autobiography in print and audiobook formats. You may find some typos, errors, or even stories that may have been excluded or cut short in the draft, but will be expanded on in the final version. However, I wanted to share the journey with everyone as I try to document all of the crazy things in my life. Enjoy the first draft of my life story as the narrator takes you along the adventures of my life.
Chapter 1, Early Roots. Brooklyn Park to Glen, Burnie, 1968. Mid-teens. I came screaming into the world as Arlin Carter in Baltimore, Maryland, 1968. My biological father was Wayne Carter, a guy I barely knew growing up. Mom married him young, had me, and things fell apart fast. They divorced when I was 3 or 4. Wayne eventually had 2 other kids from another marriage, Scott and Jamie, my half-siblings, but I didn't grow up with them. Visits were rare, secret, arranged by my paternal grandparents, Vivian and Joe Carter. They'd pick me up or drop me off like they were smuggling contraband. No one could know. Dan would have lost it. I'd sit in the back of their old car staring out the window, heart pounding with excitement and confusion. Wayne would be there sometimes, awkward, trying to act like a dad he never really was. Scott was there too, close to my age as me, quiet kid. We'd play catch or stare at each other like strangers who shared blood. Felt weird, like I was borrowing a family for an afternoon. Then they'd drop me back, wave goodbye, and I'd walk into the house like nothing happened. Confusing as hell for a kid. Wayne stayed on the edges of my life, a name more than a face, until he reappeared later with his own brand of drama. Mom remarried to Dan Bleclic, and by 1975 or 76 the adoption came through. I was not part of that process that I remember. It just happened. Then one day my name changed to Arlin Bleclic. My first memory of that was in 1st grade when my teacher calls roll. Arlin Bleclic? Kids snicker. I hated it. It was Arlin Carter up until then. Arlin was bad enough, but Bleclic, no one could say it correctly. Even the narrator of this story can't pronounce it correct. Bleclic is the correct way to say it, but it felt strange, like my name just got ripped away. Someone decided I wasn't Carter anymore, and so Arlin Bleclic it was. I carried that resentment like a stone in my pocket for years. We lived in Glen, Burnie, small single-story house right next to a convenience store. Just close enough I'd sneak over with spare change, grab ice cream sandwiches and candy bars, stuff them in my pockets, run back like I got away with murder. Cold wrapper in my hand, sugar rush hitting while the neighborhood hummed with distant traffic and kids yelling. Best part of the day, family was a revolving door. Mom had Amy in 1974. She was also adopted by Dan. Amy was younger than me, spent chunks of time with aunts. Never knew her real dad. She didn't handle the chaos like I did. Drinking, drugs took her down fast. She died around 2010. Jumped to Amy's passing in 2010. I remember the day. It was cold that day, kind of a gloomy gray outside. I was downstairs doing something and my mom, who was living with us at the time, screamed my name. Arlin, she yelled. She was frantic, screaming and crying. She's gone. She's gone. Amy is gone. I ran upstairs to get a handle on what was going on. My sister Amy had passed away. That is all the detail I could gather. After calming my mother down, we headed over to my sister's house. There was a cop at the door, and he lets us in. House messy as hell. Mom steps over a blanket on the floor, pulls it back. Amy's there. Gone, just laying there, lifeless, pale, bloated. Mom loses it, screaming, collapsing. I rush in behind her. I stand frozen, stomach dropping. Cop just let us walk in like the body had already been cleared. What the fuck? I could not believe it. That image sticks forever. Blanket, pale skin, silence louder than anything. Back to the house in Glen, Burnie, before Amy's passing. Heather and Tracy, Dan's daughters from his first marriage, bounced between our place and their moms. In and out, suitcases always half packed, like they never knew where home was. I was the oldest, always watching, always steady when shit went sideways. Heather's had it rough. Mom never liked her. I remember punishments, beatings that left marks, Mom screaming she was evil. One night, Mom's high on pills, saying Heather was standing at the foot of our bed, pointing at her like she's a demon. She's evil, Dan, she's evil. Drug-induced drama. Poor Heather put up with a lot of shit. Never complained, just took it. Tracy also bounced from her mother Debbie's house and aunts on Dan's side of the family. I don't have many memories of Heather and Tracy growing up. In reality, the memories from those 10 or so years are mostly of hanging out with Ray, working with my dad, racing BMX, riding motorcycles and some camping, but mostly working. Ray and I would walk to school most every day. About a 15-minute walk from my house, Ray was another 10 minutes further away. We would meet at my house and make the trek to school together. Most days uneventful, others filled with older kids teasing us, chasing us, cutting through the woods so we did not get beat up. Normal kids shit for those days. After school, if I wasn't working, we would grab our bikes and head out for adventures. Mom's pill problem was constant. Most days I would come home from school, find her on the floor, blue lips, not breathing right. Called ambulances so many times I knew the paramedics by name. One night she and Dan got into an argument, fighting about who know what. I don't remember what it was about, but I remember my Uncle Jimmy was there, visiting I think. He was a Baltimore city cop and carried a gun. That night when my parents were arguing, she grabs the gun, I assume it was Jimmy's gun, and fires through the wall. The bullet rips through the living room wall, through the ceiling over my bunk bed, and misses my head by inches. I freeze in the dark, heart slamming against my ribs. Later the cops show up, come into my room, check on me, and to also see where the bullet went through. Yep, there it is, top of the wall into the ceiling right above where he was laying, one of the cops says out loud. That night there were no arrests, no child service counselors to talk to. Just go back to sleep. Everything will be all right. Different times. Dan was tough. B&O railroad engineer, side construction hustle. Took me to the railroad young. Let me sit in the cab, hands on controls, driving those massive engines moving boxcars around. I remember once we drove a passenger train from Baltimore to Washington, D.C. Felt like a god for a kid. On sites, he'd pay me $1 an hour, then charge me $1 for a cheeseburger at lunch. Earn it, spend it. Motorcycles, camping, BMX racing. He backed it all. But he had a temper, too. One year I got a D on my report card. Dan was pissed. Beat me with a paddle. Bruises on my legs for days. Made it worse. Another time, maybe 8th grade, I did no homework the entire year. Dan got the call, made me take a day off school and do the year's homework in one day. Sat at the kitchen table, pencil shaking, while he watched like a warden. Learned fast. Grades weren't optional. When he and Mom split around my 12th birthday, I chose him. Couldn't stomach the pill chaos anymore. When I told her I would be staying with Dad, she looked at me with disgust and said, "You're just like him." But I was thinking, well, at least I'm not like you. In between school, construction jobs with Dad, and chores, we had some fun. I wanted to race BMX really bad. Motorcycles were out of budget, but BMX, I got this. Built a cheap bike from spare parts frame, wheels, handlebars scavenged from junkyards and buddies. Looked like a Frankenstein invention. Jeans, long-sleeve shirt, motorcycle helmet, and my piece of junk homemade bike. First race, Dad takes me. I line up on the starting line. Kids making fun of me. Some poor-looking, lanky, tall kid in jeans and an old shirt. Atop of some homemade piece of crap. Well, the starting sound fires off, and I smoke the moto, flew past those over confident, spoiled, sponsored kids like they were standing still, and take first place. Seems spending all my time working and riding bikes gave me an advantage. I was taller, stronger, and faster than all of those jokers. Dad's eyes light up, and after that, he's hooked. We packed a step van with my junk bike, tools, a grill, cooler full of burgers. Burgers were free on those trips. I wasn't working, I was racing. After that, we'd hit races around Maryland, grill on the sidelines, stack up the trophies like a boss. It felt like we were a team, doing something together that I loved. After winning a few races and proving it was not just beginner's luck, we went into a bike shop to look at frames. There it was, world's first chrome moly teardrop frame with an all-chrome finish. Only a few in the world at that time. A Skyway TA, the new frame in every BMX magazine I had. Dad did not hesitate, and he bought it on the spot. We were getting serious now. New helmet, Skyway racing pants, shirt, and a bunch of high-tech parts. We gathered it all up and went home and built that beast. After that, I was the talk at every race. Kids staring. Who's that kid with the Skyway? We spent a year on the road going to races, grilling burgers, stacking more trophies. I'll never forget those days. Ray camping adventure. The VFW porch night. Ray was my one real best friend growing up. We were stuck together like glue. Weekends, evenings, after school. We did everything together. Quick bike ride to his house or mine. Cruising the neighborhood, hitting the park, sneaking into the woods on the other side of town. Anything to get away and feel free for a few hours. One time when we were young, maybe 11 or 12, Ray, me, and my dog decided to go camping. Things were different back then. No cell phones, no parents tracking you. Just be home before dark and good luck. We grabbed our bikes, a cheap tent, sleeping bags, some snacks, and headed out. Rode down the road to this large wooded area near BWI Airport, back in deep where no one went. We parked the bikes, set up the tent, made a little campsite. Felt like real adventurers. We started walking around to explore, found an old abandoned cemetery back there. Headstones cracked, overgrown with weeds, creepy as hell. Set the mood for the night. Kept going, got turned around, and suddenly we couldn't find our campsite. Sun gone, dark, no flashlights worth a damn. We walked toward the edge of the woods and came out behind an old VFW hall. Veterans of Foreign Wars place, where vets hung out, had coffee, food, maybe a drink, clubhouse vibe. My grandfather and father were members, so I knew the spot. We walked in. Late, they were closing up. Told the guys, we're camping in the woods out back. Got lost, can't find our tent. Can we crash on your porch till daylight? Explained my dad was a member. They were cool about it. Sure, go ahead. There's lawn furniture out there. Chill on that. So we did. Instead of sleeping in the woods, we crashed on the VFW porch. Dog curled up, us on plastic chairs and a bench, staring at the stars. Felt safe for once. Early morning, 2 or 3 a.m., dog goes nuts. Barking, growling, hair up. We grab the flashlight, shine it out. Some guy walking up in the dark. We couldn't see who it was. I yell, I'm going to let the dog go unless you tell us who the hell you are. Guy identifies himself. Police officer. Said they got an alarm from the VFW or were doing a routine check. Noticed the door unlocked. Wanted to know what we were doing there. We told him the whole story. Camping, lost. VFW guy said it was okay. He made some calls, confirmed it. Let us stay the rest of the night. We went back to sleep on the porch, dog on guard. Morning came, we packed up, found our campsite eventually, broke everything down, rode home, laughed the whole way about spending the night on a VFW porch instead of in the creepy woods. That was Ray, best friend. No matter how fucked up things got at home, we always had each other and some dumb adventure to escape into. Life after Mom moved out settled into a kind of gritty routine, the kind that feels both safe and suffocating at the same time. School became something to endure. Show up, do the bare minimum to scrape by with passing grades, keep my head down, and avoid the teachers. Afternoons split 2 ways, either head straight to Dad's job site, swinging a hammer, or hauling lumber for a few bucks under his watchful eye, or link up with Ray, my ride or die from the neighborhood. The one guy who didn't ask too many questions and always had my back. We'd cruise on bikes, shoot the shit about nothing and everything, maybe hit the corner store for a soda, or just ride until the streetlights flickered on. Weekends were a revolving mix of the same. More work with Dad, if he had overtime, BMX races if a local moto was on, packing the van with tools, grill, and cooler, free burgers still tasted like victory, or kicking it with Ray, laughing off the week's bullshit. Mom had landed in Brooklyn Park, about 10 miles away, close enough on a map, but a real trek in real life. It took me a solid hour on my bike to get there, pedaling hard down back roads and side streets, wind whipping past, heart racing from the effort and the secrecy. Dad would be tied up on a job or napping after a long shift, and I'd slip out. No note, no explanation, just gone. The ride felt like freedom and rebellion rolled into one. Legs burning, sweat stinging my eyes. But every mile putting distance between the pill haze and gunshots of the old house and whatever waited at Mom's. I'd show up winded, sometimes with a half-assed excuse ready, but she never asked too hard. Those visits were quiet, awkward, like we were both pretending the split hadn't ripped everything apart. I'd sit on her porch or in the living room, eating whatever she had in the fridge, talking about nothing important, just soaking in the fact that she was still there, still Mom, even if everything else had changed. Looking back, those bike rides were the first real taste of carving my own path, sneaking through the cracks in the system, proving I could handle the distance, the risk, the alone time. It wasn't glamorous. It was just survival with a little rebellion thrown in. The routine kept me steady. The weekends gave me purpose. And those secret trips to Mom's reminded me that ties don't snap clean. They stretch, they pull, but they don't always break. That stubborn streak, the one that said fuck the system when it tried to box me in, was getting stronger. It carried me through the bare minimum school days, the hard work with Dad, the races, the hangs with Ray, and it was already whispering what came next. One day soon, I'd break free for good. Reflecting on Dan, my dad. Growing up with Dan had its good times and bad. I learned a lot from that man. He taught me everything. Electrical, plumbing, carpentry, auto and motorcycle repair. I remember one year he gave me his Cleveland School of Electronics course that consisted of several books and electronic components. This course taught me an entire foundation in electronics, and I studied it over a year when I was about 9 years old. He gave me the foundational knowledge that everything I learned after was built on. He taught me discipline, respect, and good work ethics. Sure, he may have been lacking in the touchy-feely stuff. He was strict, yelled a lot. But he was the one man in my life that took me in, gave me his name, and always treated me as a son, even after my mother left. If it was not for him, I would have probably followed Amy's path. Song lyrics from Danny's Working Shoes, a song I released years later. Isn't that just the way it goes? Your dad's a good man, but you never say it. How am I the only one who knows I'm half the man of the man that raised me? Now, everything's not given. I work hard to make my living, but I give credit when I think that credit's due. Maybe you got dealt a good hand. Maybe you played it the best that you can. I don't know how far you get if you had to walk in Danny's Working Shoes in Chapter 1.